This episode is sponsored by Local First Arizona. Local First Arizona is dedicated to the success of Arizona's locally owned businesses and communities across the state, including Tucson. As the largest local business coalition in the country, Local First assists independently owned businesses of all sizes create jobs and strengthen the local economy. Local First also works to achieve racial equity, reduce environmental impacts, improve healthy food access, and develop economic opportunity in rural, tribal, and urban communities. Learn more at localfirstaz.com and find a directory of locally owned businesses near you. This episode is sponsored by Brickbox Brewery, a new company concept brought to you by Thunder Canyon Brewery team, bringing a new take on downtown Tucson entertainment, dining, and nightlife, continuing to provide space for art and community with the goal of inclusion and prosperity. Starting April, Thunder Canyon Brewery becomes Brickbox, located at 220 East Broadway Boulevard, downtown Tucson.
Cicada. We just hit the road. And no money. I quit my job I go out at least once a year. It was about from 2002 until about 2013-ish. We go out for a month. Started like a week, and then got to the point where we're doing 2 months out of the year. Yeah. I just quit my job every summer, go do it. And we didn't have any place to stay. You know, we'd be sleeping on floors and stuff like that. Yeah. And chasing our dreams and doing what we did. And it never really worked out the way I thought it would. But I think touring for me was the priceless stuff. I could never duplicate that. And I spent time trying to do that. Yeah. Like, why was I so happy when I had nothing? I was living off of gas station coffee. And, what about the 16-hour drives? Like, why? Why did that make me feel good? Yeah. And that's something later in my life I'm trying to understand. Like, I think some people are cut for that, some people aren't. Yeah. But my fondest memories of live performances have always been just being on the road and playing for like 10 people, and those 10 people follow me for the rest of my life. Yeah. Like caring about what we do because they saw me one time.
In the Southwest, there was no roadmap to hip-hop success. The Jivin Scientists stamped their name as some of the early hip-hop acts that paved the way when they formed back in 1998, releasing their debut album in 2000. Headed by frontman and MC Runt, the Jivin Scientists have released over 10 albums across 2 decades. After 8 years, they finally released their newest album, Cicada, with Strange Famous Records in 2023. Runt also runs Thunder Canyon Brewery, a place for local musicians to come out and perform in the city. Today, we unravel the stories behind the tracks, Jivin Scientists' unique style of hip-hop, and the thriving local talent that grace the stage of Thunder Canyon Brewery.
All right, Runt. First question is, when did you start rapping?
I think first time I started doing anything remotely like that was memorizing verses. That was probably like 9 or 10 years old. My brother's about 5 years older than me. So as that goes with everybody, everything he was consuming at the time, I was trying to consume. He's 14 or 15 years old. Yeah. And we lived in New Mexico, which was a lot of like heavy West Coast influence, heavy East Coast a little bit later as far as hip hop went. So a lot of like 2 short verses, stuff like that. I was DJ Quick. Yeah. I was like just learning them and reciting them. Yeah. But probably around 10 or 11, I started trying to write.
Okay.
So I guess depending on how you consider it, for me, it's whenever you start learning words like that or like learning to deliver and stuff like that, I'd probably say it was just reciting like 2 short rhymes and stuff like that, and trying to write a rap, but spending, a couple days on it, like really trying to just make the things rhyme and make it come out right. Yeah. And it was horrible, of course, but I mean, that was kind of the start of it. And I mean, it was just a pen to the paper, like that aesthetic, that falling in love with that idea of just writing in general, kind of happened around that time. And it was weird for me because I wasn't, I like have a strange form of dyslexia. Like I had a lot of like learning curves when I was growing up. So writing, as far as studies went, was never good for me.
Yeah.
So this was a weird way that I was writing, and it was a good thing for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of fell in love with just drowning stuff down like after that.
What was Tucson's music and hip hop scene like when you were starting out, and what are some of the major differences from then and now?
So I got here and I started coming down here around 2000, probably 99, 2000. My brother had moved down here, and so I was visiting from New Mexico back and forth. At that time when we got down here, my brother was getting involved in DJing, which he was trying to do, but for some groups. There's a group called Red Dirt Specimens, which were doing a lot at the time. Big Ox, James Cypherface. And those are kind of the people that him and another gentleman named Size Anonymous, there were some guys that were doing stuff at the time, playing shows. So I got down here, I was 16 or 17 when I started visiting. So I'd meet them and try to hop into ciphers. Back then it was a lot of, you go out and try to find where things were happening, where people were rapping at.
Yeah.
And Tucson was one of the first cities outside of Albuquerque I came to where there was actual ciphers happening. And Phoenix was like that too. But my brother lived here, so we come here and Friday and Saturday night, we'd hit 4th Avenue, try to find ciphers. If there was a show, we'd go hang outside of Congress or wherever, try to find ciphers. And that was where I had to start stepping in and freestyling, calling out dudes that are much bigger than me, been around for a long time. But that back then, that's how you got notoriety. It's how you built relationships and you got opportunity. So the scene was very proven show in all aspects. The b-boy scene here was big at the time. The graffiti scene here was huge at the time. The DJ scene here has always been huge, but it was really big at the time too. And all those elements of that required you to show up and show what you could do to be invited to be a part of the scene. And that's kind of how it was in a lot of places, I think. But, I had just been here, and so I fell in love with that idea. Like, if I put in the work here, eventually people would start putting me up on game, show me how to do stuff, You'd freestyle in a cypher, and if you did well, the guy would be like, come back to the studio. And I'm like, well, fuck, I don't have a studio. So if I go to your studio, maybe I'll learn something about what it'll take to get to a studio, So it was a lot more like organic paths back then. And with the evolution of, technology and things becoming more available, the city has evolved too a lot in those ways. But I still feel like a lot of what the city is, as far as its relentlessness and unforgivingness about how you have to be original and you have to be put in the work, those aspects are still here, I think. So I think some people might argue it's changed a lot, but I've seen it come and go. There's definitely waves of talent, but the 20 some years that I've been here, like, I feel like it's the city at its core is still the same.
Yeah.
But just different talent. When I got started, that was a big thing. Was in the city that we were at was smaller, so we go to b-boy jams and stuff, and it was always, back then, you'd hear about somebody being good from another city, like, oh, this guy can freestyle. And I was young, couldn't tell me any different. I was smoking everybody in my school, but they weren't good, So I'd go up to Albuquerque or something and then get schooled by a couple dudes and then go back home and work on it.
Yeah.
So those, in the early days, like, all of those moments were cool, but I think moving to Tucson, when I first got here, I thought I was it. Like, no one had put me in check yet, like, properly. And I was, 17 at the time, whenever this had happened. But I walked into a place which, forget what it was called Frequency. It was a hip hop shop for just a second here. It was across from Vaudeville, where Vaudeville used to be.
Yeah.
So, like, next to Zen Rock now, kind of that same spot. But I walked in and I grabbed the mic, started ciphering, some people there partying. Thought I just killed it. I was like, this is it. And I remember Moses came in and grabbed the mic. and Moses went off and just smoked me. And I thought, oh shit, okay, this is a different thing here, like different talents here.
Yeah.
That was my introduction to Tucson.
Yeah.
So I left that belittled or humbled
Right.
by the fact that this dude just walked in randomly and destroyed me.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not even a rapper, bro.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's just like, I just happened to stumble in here.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, I've dedicated, which I'm young at the time, but I've dedicated all this time to this, and you just like that, you know?
Yeah.
That was a big moment for me. Mic fights in general, I didn't battle until the last one, but mic fights became such a staple here, and then being in the middle of it,
Right.
physically.
Right.
Being between these two epic moments happening, they're like these two great artists reaching a new level with 500 people packed in a Scrappy's. Like, I think out of battling like those, I wasn't in those battles, but it was to facilitate them, to navigate them. It was probably one of the biggest achievements of my career for sure. And it's one not a lot of people really are familiar with unless you're from here.
Yeah.
You know, because how long ago that was. But.
Yeah. What expound more on mic fights? Like, what was it, and is there any plans like to bring it back?
So we've talked about bringing it back. Bo and Pete are two gentlemen that ran it. Originally, it's their concept. They used to run a hip hop show here at Cakes Guy, and it was, I think they ran it for 4 or 5 years. It was a late night Thursday night hip hop show. So everybody here doing music would go over there all the time and do interviews and everything.
Yeah.
So they originated this idea, like kind of out of the scene that was happening then. And this is pre 8 Mile and all that. So like the battle scene wasn't really as known at the time.
Yeah.
So, and especially a structured battle was kind of unorthodox a little bit. So they started throwing it, and after 2 or 3 of them, we had moved down here, and they had seen us perform, and they approached me about hosting it. They were trying to look for someone to brand to host it. I agreed and was excited about being a part of it because otherwise I would have been trying to battle.
Yeah.
The first one was at Scrappy's that I was a part of. Was at Scrappy's here across from Thunder Canyon, and I remember I was just terrified, like, because it was everybody's homies from the city coming.
Yeah.
And they had nothing to do with me. They hated me. I mean, just yelling at me. Yeah. Who's coming on next? Like, it was horrible. The first one was like nerve-wracking. And I've been on stage, but I was always like timid. And so that first one was like a gut check of like, I remember my brother, he was my DJ at the time, and he was like, after the first round, I was like, these people hate us. And he was like, doesn't matter, you gotta get out there and do this. Like, we have to do this, you know? And ended up, over the course of doing 5 of them, like by the 4th one, like it was my crowd. Like people were familiar with me being there. And it unified a lot of parts of the city, which there wasn't, any kind of internet like way to unite. Like there wasn't boards or like there wasn't MySpace or Facebook or Instagram. Like, so all these groups getting together, groups would usually be fighting each other and shit when they see each other around the city, and now they're all in one place. So it was kind of cool to be a part of that, but mic fights it was really just about, can you rap? Come down and try, take this money. And whoever does the best that night wins. You might be better than the other guy, but if you have an off night, they're gonna take it. And it just all dwindled down to those moments. And it was freestyle. When I say freestyle, it was literally off of the top, rebuttaling what the other person said. None of it was pre-written. Back then, that was not okay. Which, the art's changed, it's become okay. But to see people reach these new artistic levels in this environment was just raw and like really exciting. And so mic fights, it ran for, I want to say I ended up doing almost 10 of them. And eventually I got to where I wanted to step back, and I battled in one of the last ones. But I was trying to create my identity because there was a long time where people see me and be like, you're the mic fights guy. Like, but I make music too, And so, but it was a really, really cool, unique part of Tucson history. And I was fortunate to be there for it. It definitely like carved out a path for my career, for sure.
Yeah.
Sunrise, no day, no predicament. Everything dies no matter which way you run from it. I stop running, put my feet in the ground. Hunker down just to make a better, more sound pro. Down with my sound and my etiquette. Who working? See you better get a home feeling. I ain't trying to make it. If I did, I would have held tight. I ain't a C-store hipster, a motherfucking writer. Penny philosophy with the nickel smile. Grab a seat, get some coffee, we gon' talk profile. Trying to get it inside of what I write. To the people that you love, I'll never hurt you out of spite. Give it your heart and punch and it's over, kid. Show you one good thing with some cheap ass words. The one in love once or twice. Rewind his work, build up his ego, we'll play the role of the judge. And we'll all under hate him, build and separate him. Take him out for twins, so we start to date him. Get him home and open up to find a missing soul. Cause even pretty people hurt when they lose control. It's all acid, that's true stuff. Human voices, vibes, and tell us all apart. Pick myself up in a brand new stage. Cause I'm done apologizing for the blood on your pants, bitch.
It's funny because Cash later in our life, we became friends. But he's like, because we used to be on public access with it.
Yeah.
He's like, man, I stay up on like Friday night and they'd be playing.
Yeah.
Be like, this is happening in my city. How cool is this? You know, it's just different. The art was different then, and not like it's a bad thing, but that was very much the bravado and like the raw talent against each other. The duel was a little more relevant back then, a little more important.
Yeah, and that's, the type that I really like, just that chamber of truth in the middle of the ring, slug it out, like your weaknesses, strengths are all on display.
Oh, nothing make you feel worse.
Yeah.
But humbled.
Yeah.
Somebody just telling you everything wrong with you.
You got to have the stomach for that. It's like they say about boxing, It's like, hey, it's the hurt business. But I wanted to ask you a question. Are you a Ernest Hemingway fan and or a Rocky Balboa fan?
I feel like both. I can definitely see enjoying both.
Yeah.
Ernest Hemingway simply for the brutalness of the honesty, the beauty in the. It's like Bukowski or something where like there's a beauty in the ugly.
Yeah.
The brutality creates an honest vision which can be perceived as being happy or like good,
Yeah.
And Rocky's I'm an 80s kid.
Yeah.
The Rocky's shouldn't win, like beat the Russian, like Apollo, he's the glitz and the glamour, you're the rough shit, you know?
Yeah.
So I think definitely like a fan of both.
Yeah.
Definitely like with what I do in my life, I feel like I'm more of an Ernest Hemingway probably as opposed to being a Rocky.
Yeah.
Although I do feel like an underdog all the time, like I feel like my successes are not measured in a stance. It's like a visible belt, Like I feel like it's more or less I'm trying to achieve the point of leaving stuff for people to find later on, the breadcrumb stuff.
Yeah. How has Tucson's local hip hop scene or Tucson in general influenced you over the years?
I think the big thing here for me has always been it doesn't owe you anything. And I speak on that quite often because I think it's an important lesson I learned here.
Yeah.
But this city doesn't owe anybody anything, and I think that creates a landscape where you can do things that are amazing without fear of expectation, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is why I've stayed here over the years. Like I could put out a country album tomorrow and people are still gonna fuck with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's no like backlash, like, oh, I'm never listening to that old stuff again,
Yeah.
But the city is just, at the same time, if I was to do something that wasn't genuine or was, just not genuine, it would react to that and it wouldn't support that and it wouldn't make it okay.
Yeah.
This city has always been very rugged and very tough to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I've never been scared to walk down the streets.
Right.
But I think that's because when you've been there long enough, there's a certain point of comfort you reach. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I've been knocked out a couple times out there too, like, but there's a certain level of like, no, I know how the city breathes. I know when I'm putting my neck out to be in a bad situation, but I also know that I can expect, respect on all fronts from whoever's here, because I've situated myself in a place to be respected. And so like the scene, and that's mostly regarding music, but I mean the scene itself, like I think that it's influenced me in a way of I've held myself to a caliber of when it came to music being professional with people, to get that back. And the scene in Tucson has always held me accountable for that. So I think as far as influence has gone, it's created character within me to be professional at what I do, no matter how big or small, which has ended up providing me a lot of opportunity because people see us as being professional in situations that might not be normally perceived that way.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and the reverence that you get here in Tucson is lofty, like just people in general. And also, like I talked about Cash, like we talked about you, some of the things he's seen you do, what you've done for him and other people. Tommy Will one time told me like his moment, his arrival was when, I think it was for the song Favorite Rapper.
Yeah, local rapper.
He got to know, local rapper,
Yeah,
he got to know a nod from you. And he was like, that's when I knew, like, I
remember him, I'd seen the video. And this is at a time too when I was kind of already in my attitude about like how things are changing and seeing new eras of people come up and not necessarily knowing how to treat it.
Yeah.
I guess. And there was a large group of people that were doing a lot of things. And he was working with people I knew for years, like two, and a lot of stuff. And so I just saw that video and I remember thinking like, okay, it put me in check.
Yeah.
It was like, oh shit, there is people out there doing stuff that's dope.
Yeah.
And I had seen him. I didn't know who he was, And I remember I saw him at our bar and I pulled him aside. And that's just what I told him. I was like, look, man, I don't pay attention to people usually for like a year or two.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people come and go and I see that a lot. But you've been here. And then that video, the song was dope.
Yeah.
So like, but that's all I said. I was just like, I see you now.
Yeah.
And so, I'm watching what's happening. And then he turned around and, I can't sing enough praise about him just because what he started doing. Like he found a moment to start giving back. That's when me and him became close because I saw what he was doing with teaching the class. He invited me to come teach class with him one day. And I left that class thinking like, oh shit, you got like 40 people in there. You're creating a whole nother scene, which he did. Part of the reason why we're open here is because Tommy Will's class of like 40 people started playing live here. And that first year I had, literally like 20 acts trying to play. And we happened to have a venue. Like Tommy's a big reason this place was a success. Yeah. Whether he knows that or not. But it's like because he was cultivating a scene.
Yeah.
And that was something that like my biggest regret I think has always been there was years when I stopped being active. And I stopped contributing.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do my stuff. I could still be, giving opportunities to people.
Right.
So that was a big eye opener for me, man. When he started taking a lot of that on, which eventually I'm sure he would tell you like became too much at one point. But he's responsible for a big pop in what happened here, and it was cool for me to already like him, and then to see a brother do that was like, okay, this just solidifies like what I'm already thinking about you. Like, he just spunked me on the MC battle we had.
Yeah.
He wasn't even gonna sign up. We did a freestyle battle. This guy waxed me.
Did he?
Yeah. This is insane. I'm still mad. I'm gonna get him on the next one.
Yeah. I know. You're gonna come back and it's gonna be another one.
But it was cool because like he left that, and I hadn't seen him in that environment yet.
Yeah.
And I was like, see, you can do all these things.
How did Jivin Scientists come about?
We were super young, trying to figure out how to make rap music in Gallup, New Mexico.
Yeah.
First thing we could draw up was you needed a turntable to play beats on so you could rap on them and people would dance at a party. And that's, we'd seen Wild Style. So we're like, this is how rap goes. Like Busy Bee's up there. Like, this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
This is like 90, mid 90s, late 90s. And so we got some turntables. They're like, oh shit, we need to get speakers. So we got speakers, which ironically, some of these are our original speakers.
Okay.
And we started doing house parties. And it was me, James, my brother Jason, our friend Juan. He was a graffiti writer. And Fen and Evac. And so at the time, Def Squad was huge.
That's why, yeah.
So I'm trying to think of a name. We're trying to think of a name. And we're all J's, so we're like J Squad.
Yeah.
Just corny. But, that was what we came up with. And Juan, our homie, drew up the JS that's our logo for our first flyer.
Yeah.
And this is late 90s again. And we do a dance at the Armory in Gallup, New Mexico. And Outkast, Aquemini, or no, this was before that. That was later on. But anyways, long story short, we did a dance and we just invited everybody we could to come out. Set up speakers, this is gonna be huge, and we just played hip hop music.
Yeah.
And we did it. A couple people came out and we had a good time. And then so after that, we're like, all right, we'll DJ anything. Like, fast forward, we're starting to learn that, like, okay, I want to rap. Now I got to make beats. How do I do that? Well, Dre uses an MPC. We see it on the back of the, in articles and shit.
Yeah.
How much does that cost? Oh, $1,500. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got a job, Holiday Inn Express. I'm working all the time. I'm like 16, 17, saving every check, buying NPCs, don't even know how to work it. We were so far out in New Mexico, in the middle of nowhere, and we're just grabbing all the information we can, trying to get it going. Eventually it dawns on me, we're starting to make music. We're not at DJing people. I got to think the logo was it. My whole life I was like, I got to think of a Wu-Tang logo. Like, every time you saw the Wu Bird, you knew what it was.
Right.
And that was my first introduction to branding as a kid. It was just like, I remember fantasizing having like a Wu Bird on my back, like tattooed, and just how hard that was,
Yeah.
And my homie drew this JS Juan, and it was it. It was everything I was trying to make. It embodied, everything I was trying to create. And so at the time, we used to call it Spittin' Science, but this is like kind of before Atmosphere, like a lot of the emo rap shit had come out. There was a group called Styles of Beyond, and it was just intricacy, nerd shit. So I came up with the name Jivin Scientists, and the whole principle was we're scientists because we study the fundamentals of music that we're trying to create, but then we're adding our own flavor to it, jiving it. And it was just centered around the logo. I was trying to figure out a way to make the logo, and not be J Squad. And yeah, man, and then that was it. And then the funny thing is it's come back to bite us in the ass for sure later on.
Yeah.
But it all is something that some people see not marketable. I've had huge opportunities laid out in front of me, and because I didn't want to change the name, it stopped the opportunity from happening.
Where were they? What direction, or how were they trying to alter it?
They would want us they felt like the name was silly and didn't understand it, so they wanted us to be like Runt and Fan or something like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like when we signed to Strange Famous, that had come up, and we had some other opportunities that went through some because I wasn't willing to waver on that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I just realized as I got older, like that name always reminds me of being that age and how much I loved it. And the wackiness or the silliness of it should always be a part of what I'm doing. Like, I should always be creating and not be ashamed of being creative, And so I just kind of felt like if I was to ever change that, then what does that say about like where I'm at with it, And also it's mine.
Yeah.
I built it.
Yeah.
People see it, they know what it is. People know the name. So to me, it's like the only reason you're fucking with me, period, is because of that.
Exactly.
So if you want me to change that, you're wanting something else. You're not wanting me.
Yeah, the identity's gone, the recipe's out.
This is who I am.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the name came about, but it's also been something that like it's super important to me. It's a reminder of where I come from, a reminder of like why I fell in love with it, and a reminder of like it's mine. Like that's one thing that like people cannot take away from me, that identity of that,
Let's light
light a match and watch who burns the fastest. Smack the shit out your big frame glasses. Runt writes classics, Finn's got drum kits. Jazz motherfucker about to show you where the heart is. Sleeping on floors and playing holes in the wall. Self-made kids while we stand so tall. And I can freestyle, son, you can't hold a candle. Catch me outside putting blood on your flannel. Cool kids get noosed up by the neck. Have them hanging from the rafters for lack of respect. And I better not catch any of y'all talking shit, cause I write love songs. I'm fucking good at it. I ain't that smart, but you sound stupid. Finn dug the beat out, chopped it and fucking looped it. You wanna be at the beat, stop talking. You wanna do it, then do it and start walking out.
After 8 years, Cicada recently dropped on Strange Famous Records. Now that it's been out for a couple months, how do you feel?
Alleviated, for sure. Relief. And scared, terrified.
Yeah.
I think as an artist, especially with music, I found that if you're not working on something, it's kind of the worst place to be. If you're working on it, 5 years, you still got to be worked on. Y'all, there's a safety in always saying like, "Oh, we're working on it."
Right.
You know, whether it's done or not, you can still feel like you're working. Having it come out, this is definitely the longest we've ever spent on anything. A lot of life changes. You know, me and Finn been working together our whole lives, and like a lot of things have changed, and some good and some bad, but having it done is joyous, but there's a lot of postpartum in it too. And it's, you know, I think I've done it enough, I've released enough albums, I know how that cycle works for me, but there's a lot of sadness to it and a lot of happiness. It's just kind of a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah.
So part of me is happy it's out,
Yeah.
but another part of me is searching for what to do next.
Yeah. Yeah. The album is like a symposium for MCs, and then simultaneously, like for the listener, you get to experience every element of hip hop.
We definitely tried to make it. We got approached by the label. We went through and listened to everything the label has put out. And we'd already been fans of a lot of them.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we've been invited to be a part of something else. And we had to figure out how to market. A big decision we were trying to make is how do we market towards this whole new group of people. And that was putting everything we've learned over the years, trying to get a little bit of everything on there. So even if you don't like some of my older stuff, or you do like some of my older stuff, it's there. It's just, you know, it's in different ways, and we try to showcase as much of it as we could. And I buried, like, up front, a lot of the music is the hip hop stuff. And then once if you really want it, you dig deeper in the album, then you get more of kind of our darker sound of who we are and those ideas. So, yeah, we spent a lot of time curating it to sound that way, and to give a little bit of everything, for sure.
Do you have a favorite track on the album?
I think Dog, the last song, is probably it for me.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first song I wrote coming out of an abusive relationship and a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
And I hadn't written anything in probably a year.
Yeah.
So it was getting back to myself, but also it was the first time I was able to talk about it and listen and not be afraid, you know.
Yeah.
All my friends are dying, but it ain't from lack of trying, man. Elegant and evil in your ear, a poet and a lion. She screams, that's what's left inside of me. Every single word drenched in fear. Fighting some good fight like I had a cause, but my effectiveness left me at a pause.
So, yeah, and then Dog is the best representation of where not only I was at then, but how things started developing and who I ended up being. Yeah. Because it was a strange time for me. I lost a lot. I'd given up a lot. And we wrote, I remember finished penning that, and Finn had kind of bare bone to beat, but that was the first song we recorded for the whole album, and I was like, all right, now I got direction. Like now I got a way to go.
Yeah.
Parts of me wish that I could have produced more music at that moment, because I think it might not have been as marketable as of an album, but I think it would have been something different. But yeah, that's definitely probably my favorite.
Yes, it's super interesting that you named that track, because honest to God, that's my favorite track. Like the way I listen to an album, I've always listened to an album, is beginning to the end. I don't skip shit. I need to really get into it, see what it's about. So by the time I got to the last song, I was like, damn. And that's where the analogy of Ernest Hemingway meets Rocky Balboa started for me. But I had that on repeat. I still got it on repeat, like, because it's heavy. It's heavy.
I think with that too, someone asked me about that early on, about the structure of how we were putting stuff together. But I always listen to albums the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so my thing was like, if you're just finding out about us 4 or 5 songs in, cool.
Yeah.
But if you really fuck with us heavy, I've got those gems for you, but you got to go get them. Like I'm not gonna give that shit to you. Like at this point in my career, the stuff that means that much to me, it's back there. And if you want it, you can have it, but you got to go get it. You got to do the work.
Yeah. I mean, personally, as a writer, like that one was like, damn, he has a sharp fucking pen. Like, it's real.
Thank you.
But I wrote different quotes down, but from Dog, the quote that I wrote down, you said, deep inside my stomach grows a seed of hope and plenty, scribing through my organs wrapped around the bones within me, spilling out my eyes and infecting all my breaths, screaming not to leave, I probably never should have left. But what's to make a man if a man don't make decisions? Perfection is directed by the choices made within him. Like, that was heavy.
Yeah.
Super heavy.
Yeah.
Just a description and really going through literally like your body, like the old game was the game in the 80s, Dr. Operator, whatever. Like, that's how I was able to visualize it, and you're carrying your experience, your plight, your hopes and dreams, everything through that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the type of picture that I really look for what an MC can do. And when I first started listening to the album when it came out, obviously as fans, we listen to music in different ways.
Sure.
And I was in the car and I put it on, and Cicada came on, and the literal sound of the cicadas. I woke up this morning with cicadas. I was like, that's a good sign. But hearing that, and the first line from that, where it goes, the age of 8, my brother caught me with a right hook and laid me flat onto the ground. He damn near knocked the teeth out my mouth. I could still hear that sound. And as I laid on the green grass, blood dripping from my teeth to my tongue, I could taste how salty the world was and where the fuck I come from.
The age of 8, my brother got me with a right hook and laid me flat onto the ground. He damn near knocked the teeth out my mouth. I could still hear that sound. And as I laid on the green grass, blood dripping from my teeth to my tongue, I could taste how salty the world was and where the fuck I came from.
Like, I said, I can't listen to this driving.
Yeah.
I gotta go home.
Yeah.
And allow this to seep through my pores. Like, that's how introspective and just vulnerable it is. So I said, if this is starting like this, I can't fucking run around. No, fuck that. So I also wanted to tip my cap for that. Like,
thank you.
Me as a hip hop fan, that's how we grew up. That's what I love. You know, it's lyrics.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it on a whole nother level. So the 8-year wait, that was worth it. That was worth it, because the experiences, life experiences, the changes, it really came through with the album.
Thank you, man.
Came through.
And that's it's hard too, because you spend that long on something. You know, you write a book.
Yeah.
You're spending all this time on it.
Yeah.
And especially with us, we have so many people that follow us.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to have a fan base, so it's terrifying to go, like, it's been 8 years. I know this is, at one point I thought this was good, but I've been listening to it for so long, I'm detached.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest blessing out of everything, is when we put it out, it was there. It was what people were wanting, and we're just super lucky to have it hit like it did. As far as our fan base embraced it, and that was the most terrifying thing for me. I was just worried we were gonna, disappoint people, and that's always a big, fear for anybody.
Yeah. Cicada was released through Strange Famous Records. What's your perspective on releasing music independently versus releasing music through a bigger record label?
So we've been independent the entire time. 10 projects. The game has changed so much that even our deal with Strange, it's a 50-50 digital split. So it's a deal is in the sense of like everything that we're putting out, streaming, we're splitting that money with them. It's completely different than a typical, 360, like some of the deals that they used to do.
Yeah.
For us, it was more, this label is something we looked up to. So getting to work with them to any extent is beneficial for us. It's kind of like the perfect full circle moment of like, getting to finally play on the varsity team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the difference between the two to me is like, it's actually just gotten so great now. The independent game is kind of the same thing, and either someone's taking your money or, they have your publishing or whatever, but it's, everybody's using, the same platforms to distribute their music and stuff. So like, that was just the biggest thing. Like back in the day, you needed a label because you couldn't get distribution, and now distribution is available. So, and I don't know, because it's changed so much where like the social media aspect has become a huge part of deals for people.
Yeah.
And that's, I understand why, because so much of the businesses circulate around that, but like, it's hard to draw the line between when are you a brand, a product,
right,
or when are you being an artist,
Yeah.
And a lot of dudes, like, being the product's the most important part.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just, this deal with Strange Seamus was like more of a head nod from them, saying like, we see you, and us working with them is more just a stamp on our record that like, I got there, like where I was trying to get when I was young. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know, and I definitely have a skewed view. I'm not involved in some of the things that some people are, like the publishing, like getting placements, and there's a whole business to that stuff. And it was before my time or after my time, and I kind of got comfortable with being at a point where like I'm an artist, I care about the art, and everything else, if it comes, cool. If not, I'm not really chasing it. I just want to make, man. I just want to make things.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
Take us back to some of the memories you have with Jivin Scientists performing. What is your most memorable moment?
So when we started out, I was like dying to go on tour. I thought that was like what, that was always the big goal, because no one was touring, except for big acts. So my most memorable times are just like us. We got a van. Back in the day, you could afford to buy a van, and we got a van for like 4 G's. And we just hit the road, and no money. I quit my job. I go out at least once a year. It was about from 2002 until about 2013-ish. We go out for a month. Started like a week, and then got to the point where we're doing 2 months out of the year.
Yeah.
I just quit my job every summer, go do it. And we didn't have any place to stay. We'd be sleeping on floors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just all those moments, man, like we roll up to a city and kill it. Sell all of our shit, make a bunch of money, and go to the next city and do it again the next day. Meeting lifelong friends, and that was probably always the best part for me. We did a lot of really cool shows that were big, opening up, beginning to share stages with people that I definitely looked up to. The thing about that is you never meet them really. They're always there doing work. They're busy. So you never really have that connection you're kind of looking for. Sometimes you do, but so I haven't really treasured those moments as much.
Yeah.
It's the local gritty, like making friends with people, end up being friends with them, like your whole life and stuff like that. Like those shows. Albuquerque was huge for us. We started playing Albuquerque in there'd be a couple people there, and by the time the height of my career doing music, we'd have 500 people at a show there, and it wasn't our city. So that was always a big compliment to us, like that.
Yeah.
But just being on the road with my family, my best friends, man, and chasing our dreams and doing what we did, and it never really worked out the way I thought it would. But I think touring for me was the priceless stuff. I could never duplicate that. And I spent time trying to do that.
Yeah.
Like, why was I so happy
Yeah.
when I had nothing? I was living off of gas station coffee. And, what about the 16-hour drives? Like, why? Why did that make me feel good?
Yeah.
And that's something later in my life I've been trying to understand. Like, I think some people are cut for that. Some people aren't.
Yeah.
But my fondest memories of live performances have always been just being on the road and playing for like 10 people, and those 10 people following me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Caring about what we do because they saw me one time.
Yeah.
So that's it for me.
Yeah, I think another legendary feat that I witnessed with you as far as performing was with the recent tour, the Truth Your Whiskey tour. We had JB, Tommy Will, Marley, and Cash Lansky.
Yeah.
And at the show that culminated here in Tucson, that I came to, it was amazing, like to see each one of them perform. And as each one of them were performing, you're walking around, helping with stuff, doing things, watching when you can. And another like 80s, 90s reference I'll use is like the Ninja Turtles. It's like I saw the Ninja Turtles kick ass, and then you came out last and it was like fucking Master Splinter.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, let me get the mic now, and
Yeah.
So that shit was crazy, man, because I was literally watching you like one of us.
Yeah.
And then get up there and be like, all right, I'm gonna shut the shit down. Like, everybody get the fuck up here. Like, stop fucking around, don't talk. And he just went in, And it took me back to the first experience, like when I saw you at Mike Fights. Like, I'm like, damn, the command is still there. He's sharp as hell. Like, so that was a treat.
Every time I rap, it's just drink with your whiskey. The Runt beat, killing the MIC. Rock, grab a mic and come rock with me. Yo, over the top when I speak non-stop, I be killing this shit, cause it's so hot. No on the ones and the twos like this, see. Rockin' was a kid and come freestyle with me. And every time I talk, it's always something brand new. I try to move through and get it moving for my crew. Get it on your camera, fucking take a picture. There's a corner spike up there, go and get you. I transfer us to rap and talk about this new shit. Catherine dancing around cause she can cue shit. Yeah, it be always like this. And every time I talk, making sure I don't miss, yo. All of this to let them know I got friends. But if I want tacos, I call Geronimo's Revenge. I ain't really trying to hold this seat. Every time I fuck around, I'm on the MIC. Let me see, I'ma help you out real quick. It's got a fucking mute on it, I'ma help that shit. Look, check it out, and see where it go. My name is Runt, this is Rock Joint Custody Flow.
That was a great moment because we'd spent that week all together.
Yeah.
And, every city someone goes off and someone does better than the others, and so to get back and to like be with our people, to be around people that love us because they know us, and then to share the stage with those guys in that environment, it just felt elite to me. It felt special because it was like a Wednesday or Tuesday night, whatever.
Yeah,
it's packed.
Yeah.
It's like that to me was like that's the kind of pull those guys have. Like it's to be able to be on the road with them, play the shows with them, be spoken about in the same senses as each one of those guys. Is this far in my career, I never would have thought I'd be relevant still in those circles.
Yeah.
So it's like that was a huge night for me too. It was a good reminder that like, hey, I can still do shit.
Right.
Because you forget sometimes, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was here at Thunder Canyon Brewery. And Thunder Canyon provides local artists with a kind of safe haven venue to perform. How did it get to this point?
I've worked for the company for a long time. Steve Tracy, the owner, I've become friends with him over the years. I've been with them about 10 years. And they were going through a transition period. And my dream has always been to own a dive bar and with a stage and do music. And they were just going through a big change at the time. And I left the company for about a month and spoke to them about, if you guys ever want to do something weird, because I don't have any background in business or, outside of just hustling my own stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, you want to do something weird? Give me a call and pitch an idea to you, you know? And came over and had a beer one day. I was bartending at Congress at the time. And had a beer with them and laid out the vision of Thunder Canyon. When I moved here, all the shotgun bars like Vaudeville District, the way that Thunder Canyon is set up is on purpose. Yeah. It's a shotgun style bar to a stage. Yeah. And so that's if you're from Tucson and you walk in here without knowing it, subconsciously you're going to get a feeling of those places. Yeah. So that was part of the identity. And I had we have all the PA stuff, like old speakers and stuff. Literally built the stage by hand and just called in all my favors because I got the opportunity to run it. So it was like, this is my opportunity to run something. Yeah. I need everybody's help. Yeah. And I called everybody. And everybody came through. Everybody came and played. You know, we did the first year very minimal budget, if it existed at all. Yeah. It was just about rebranding and changing how people perceived us. Because we were just a stuffy restaurant brewery before that. Typical, you know? And I had nothing to lose. So, you know, I just lost my job before I'd taken over. So I figured, fuck it, let's go. Let's throw everything in and see what happens. I knew there wasn't any venues here because I'm an artist. Yeah. I couldn't find places to play. Yeah. And I knew how I got treated at certain places. Yeah. I knew how much it cost me to do a show some places. Yeah. So I thought, what if we opened up, don't charge people at all? What if we create an environment where it's geared towards an artist being successful, and that success will in turn create crowds, which will in turn create revenue? What if we focus on treating those people better? And everything else will come, you know? And my thing was that I literally just built a venue that was what I would have chose to play at if I was touring. So that's kind of the base idea of what Thunder Canyon is. And also Thunder Canyon is the oldest brand in the city. Barrio is an older brewery, but they rebranded about 10 years ago. So like, and we're one of the most decorated and we're one of the least respected as far as that community goes. And it's just, to me, that's all adds into who I am, the Rocky Balboa of the, you know what I mean? Like, I know that I sit in some meetings with people that are very good at this particular craft and this particular type of business, and my ideas are crazy to them, but I'm still here. Yeah. And, you know, we're going on 5 years now, Thunder Canyon being rebranded like this. Yeah. But I'm a community space that happens to make its own beer. It happens to be a distillery, happens to have a stage. Like, I just know if I created a space for people to go to, because that's what I was missing. Right. Vaudeville was gone, District was gone. You know, Congress felt different. Yeah. You know, Heads felt different. Yeah. You know, Flycatcher was gone, which, you know. So to me, it was like, Thunder Canyon was like, there's a void, let's fill it for as long as we can. And then, you know, if that works, cool. If not, do something else. But it seems to be working right now.
There's a lot of musical talent in Tucson. What are your hopes for the future of Tucson's local artists?
I hope some more people break into positions of power regarding what's happening with the city. So, like, I hope someone like Tommy Will gets an opportunity to open a bar in a venue. I hope that somebody like Cash Lansky gets an opportunity to further fund Hand Up, not a handout. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the biggest problem we have right now is there's a lot of really talented people here, and they're focused on the art, which I think is great. But I'm also seeing things from a 39-year-old perspective of like, we've got to start taking back some of the city in a financial sense. We got to start creating places that create opportunities to feed each other and to make sure everybody's okay. I just see a lot of friends doing that. Yeah. Like, we spoke on JB earlier, but like, he's opening restaurants in his city that are directed towards providing quality food to places that didn't have access to it. He's part owner in a theater that's like Rialto. My thing is, like, I want to start seeing people from Tucson have those kind of opportunities. Like Flowers and Bullets, I'd love to see them be able to, you know, get more funding for what they're doing, and more help for what they're doing. I'd like to see a lot more Tucson-based companies open up their businesses downtown. I think, you know, those are, in my head, I love the scene, the music's cool, but hip hop isn't just about music. You know, a lot of it's about community And as someone that runs a business downtown right now, my biggest argument is the city isn't showing any love to people from here. And I'm fortunate to be where I'm at, and circumstance led it to that. But, you know, there needs to be a Rollies downtown. You know what I'm saying? Like, there needs to be, like, rent for these places should be half price for a local Tucson citizen. It's subsidized by the city for them to come in and operate their business and bring culture here. Because people come here downtown and they want Mexican food. And they drive 6 miles to go get it.
Right.
Whereas, like, all you guys talk about is putting in Good Hope Burger, you know what I mean? Like, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But, like, none of that shit's here, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much culture. It's such a rich place. And there needs to be more support and more people of our creative minds empowered. And I think that, to me, that's what I would like to see most, is to start seeing more opportunity for these guys outside of just throwing a fucking show.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, put so much sweat equity, you know, and this, as an artist, you have that side and then the entrepreneurial side. And it's like, man, I talk about that every day with Fiona. Like, I'm like, yo, I get frustrated, you know, because like you, that's why it's so important. I'm so happy that you spoke on that, because that's what I want to see. I want to see people in positions of power to be able to point this way and do that, do this for, you know, instead of just, you know, whatever.
And just, you're trying to tell me Cash Lansky wouldn't make a great public representative to any degree?
Yeah, shit, you
know what I'm saying?
You can't cut yourself out.
But I mean, like,
yeah,
that's, and why are we not thinking like that?
Yeah, and no slight to Cash, that's my brother, 100
Sure.
grand, but like all of y'all, like,
Yeah.
You guys have put in the sweat equity, like, you know, the layout of the land, you know. So, and you know, as I said earlier, like, the reverence for you is lofty from everybody, like the generations before you I've talked to the ones coming after. Like, everybody from like you mentioned two earlier, Swin and Reggie, and you know, down to Ago and Sneaks. And I see you putting a platform for all of these people, man. That's no slight. Like, that's pretty dope.
Thank you, man.
You know, so we definitely appreciate that, man. And just need more of that, of the collaboration. Like, a lot of the people at the bottom compete, but everybody at the top can collaborate.
Yeah.
And that's where the movement is at, really.
And I know that stuff's happening because I have those conversations.
Yeah.
I've had talks with certain individuals about them wanting to buy stuff and do things, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of times I might be the closest to be able to explain the, like, logistics of how things can happen here. But I just, like, that's a big thing. If anybody watches this, take away from that, we're all, like, everybody we've been talking about, they're all open wells of knowledge. Like, I'm here, you know where to find me. You come down and find me, and I will share all the game I got with you. Because, you know, other people with the same mindset, creating opportunities out in the city like that, it's just going to help everybody out.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt anybody, you know? No. And we just need more of that. Because right now, there is a power struggle downtown. There is a power situation downtown where a lot of what happens here at Thunder Canyon isn't welcome in a lot of other places.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether you know that or not as an artist, I can tell you someone's in the middle of it, it is there.
Yeah.
There is people stopping your opportunity.
Yeah.
There is gatekeepers.
Yeah.
But it's just about the gate you're trying to get into.
Right.
Like, you know, you're picking the house you're trying to get involved with. That's why we've been so open here, is because my idea is if I stay a lighthouse to that, maybe I can change what's happening down there, and I've done that.
Right.
In a small degree, but like, any artist that plays with me, they don't get taken advantage, don't pay to play anymore.
Yeah.
It's because they've been playing it for 5 years and they know they don't have to do that shit.
Exactly.
You know, and if they do, it's worth their time to do it.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that. Like, as long as we're here, and I don't know, this shit could shut down tomorrow. I don't know, it's business, man. Like, we were talking about COVID earlier. Like, this shit could all be done tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'll be out bagging groceries, because that sounds great to me. It's a little less involvement, you know? But I mean, if that happens, you know, at least we spent that time enlightening those people, and hopefully they're going to go on to open up their own thing.
Yeah.
My thing is like, when my job ends here, hopefully one of you guys came here and rapped a couple times, and now you got a job for me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because there's no stability in any of this.
Yeah.
But if there's more people in power, it's more successful.
Yeah.
Taking control over the city.
Yeah.
Then people like me are able to find stuff if they need it, find help when they need it. You know. And I don't need help right now, but I have needed help in my life.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just important. Like, as long as I can do it, I'm gonna do it. But at the same time, like, I want to see, some of these dudes create something. The OCF opened up a studio. They got a lot of stuff going on with that.
Yeah.
Love that. I love seeing that shit.
Yeah.
So I just want more people to like kind of, elevate, and get beyond the music shit, because it's just part of what's going on.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement. And so how can the stalwart fans from the genesis of Jivin Scientists Runt to the new people, how can they find you? How can they reach out to you?
So we run all of our own social media stuff. So Instagram, Facebook, we're older, so Instagram is probably the best way to get at me. If you hit me on a TikTok, I don't know what's going on probably. I might miss that shit. Honestly, best way to get a hold of me, come down to Thunder Canyon Brewery on the weekend, man. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm a face-to-face dude.
Yeah.
Talking is a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
I'm very accessible. But other than that, literally, we've been on the internet since the internet started. So Jivin Scientists,
Yeah.
that's all you got to look for. You'll find everything you need.
Yeah.
The videos and music and stuff like that.
Well, man, on behalf of me and the city, man, we have a great deal of love for you, man, and what you've done. It's nothing short of legendary.
Thank you, man.
And I was able to witness that 20 years ago up until recently on the stage. And we want you to continue and to build and do what you're doing. And there's anything we can do, your back is God.
Hell yeah.
Man, we appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
The pain follow me. Deal with trauma privately. I don't wanna be a burden. I handle things defiantly. Spent a decade searching for a higher power guiding me. Figured out that faith is not up there, that it's inside of me. Act with execution. What's a plan with zero action? Faced with bad habits, knowing it's a magnet to my imbalance. I'm somewhere between confidence and arrogance. The middle ground is treacherous. I work